Okay, we are all set. Thank you everyone for joining our panel. We are all set to get started. My name is Javondalyn Dunnigan. I'm the owner of JMD Defense LLC and the founder of the Ladies of Steel Gun Club. We have people joining us from all over, especially Illinois, but from various states. So we have a lot to cover, a lot to discuss with our awesome panelists, and I want to get started. So first, we're going to start with our ladies just introducing themselves and telling a little bit about who they are. So we can get started with Karen Odom.
Good evening, ladies. My name is Karen Odom. I don't have a law enforcement background. I'm a culinary chef, and I love to shoot.
All right, Athena.
Oh, hey everybody, I am Athena. My last name says Athena Powell, but I am Athena Harshaw, and I'm not in law enforcement. I am actually a mail carrier. I'm also an entrepreneur. I sell paparazzi accessories, and I also do travel.
All right. Okay, Helena, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Helena Haley. I am a retired Chicago public school teacher. I enjoy reading. I enjoy gardening, working in my yard. I like to take leisurely walks, and I like to exercise.
All right. Very good. And ladies, if you all could speak up just a little bit louder into the mic. I'm Vernetta.
I'm Vernetta Robinzine. I'm not part of law enforcement, have never been part of law enforcement, but guns are now my hobby, and I actually work in telecommunications. Welcome, everyone.
All right. So everyone has a unique story as it relates to entering this new hobby or this field called firearms. And the journey is unique for some, and for some it's like, I've always been interested in firearms, and that's maybe the case for some people that are on the call and listening in, and maybe for others it's not. So I want all of our ladies to kind of give their stories about their journey to firearm ownership. And so we'll start with Athena.
Okay, my journey to firearm
Athena,
ownership.
speak up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My journey to firearm ownership, it's been about 4 or 5 years. I was married at the time, so that wasn't a reason why, like, I was single or anything. I was with my husband at the time, but I wanted it for when I'm not with him. And I was becoming an entrepreneur and going places where I had a lot of money on me. And so I wanted to be a little bit more safer and prepared for anything that may happen. And that's when I started to look into owning a firearm for my own protection.
Okay. Helena, tell us a little bit about your journey to firearm ownership.
Well, my journey has been slow and methodical. I do not currently own a firearm. I'm still not at that stage where I'm comfortable with, say, owning a firearm or being around a firearm 24/7. I enjoy going to the range. It's been, I guess in the last 5 years, I actually wanted to learn how to just shoot a firearm. And I had asked a couple of friends who, if they would take me to the range and just show me how to shoot a gun. That never worked out. And I'm glad it didn't, because I eventually made my way to classes with JMD Defense, Intro to Firearms, and then going and getting my concealed carry. And I'm really glad I did, because it's more to owning a firearm and just picking the gun up and shooting it. And I have really enjoyed the educational journey that I am on my journey for being comfortable around firearms.
Okay. Karen, tell us about your experience and your journey.
My experience is what started as my older brother was concerned for my safety, because as an entrepreneur, as a chef, I was catering and baking and delivering stuff everywhere all times of the day. And he was like, well, what you gonna do if somebody does something? So I had already had a FOI card. I had already gotten my concealed carry through JMD. And then we had an incident at my church that happened, and the assailant was sitting right next to me. Scared me to death. The next day, my brother and I called him. We went to the range. He was showing me everything, and I purchased my first gun. And then we would go. He would make me go practice. He said, you have to practice. That's how you learn and get better. Practice, went to the range every week, twice a week. Then I wanted to become an instructor, but I became what am I, Javonda? I'm a sharp,
distinguished expert shooter. And we'll talk about that.
Shooter. So I went to distinguished expert, the NRA shooting program, became a distinguished expert. And then I said, oh, I want to do some more. So then I went on to become an instructor. Right. So now I'm an instructor with JMD, and I own quite a few firearms.
All right.
Okay. All right, Vernetta, tell us about your experience.
Well, when my daughter went off to school a little over 4 years ago, it came to mind I was going to be by myself, and I had a problem actually coming in and out by myself, especially at night, because I had a garage that was not that was detached, and I knew that was probably not the safest thing to do because I'm coming in alone. So when I heard about JMD, because Javonda Lynn and I are old classmates, I said, hey, let me check that out. At first, I didn't think I was going to even, guns and Vernetta, I just couldn't even imagine that. So when I actually went to the class, I was like, hey, I think I can do this. And that's exactly what happened. I took the intro to firearms because I needed to understand. And then I took the next courses, and now I'm pretty proficient with firearms. I currently own 3. They've become a hobby. I maintain my own guns as well. So that's my little journey.
So as the founder of the gun club, obviously I've come to know you all pretty well over the last 3 or 4 years, however long you all have been in the club. And Vernetta is the most senior person in the club because she was one of the first members. And what I remember most about your journey, Vernetta, is that you took our first concealed carry class. And so Vernetta came to our first gun club meeting with her, which came to one of our meetings with her firearm. And I remember you walking in saying, I'm carrying. I want to show you all. And so that really became show and tell. So tell us about what that experience was like when you first started carrying, and how did it feel? Because that would be helpful to some of the participants.
I was a little nervous in the beginning because at first, when I started carrying, I did not keep a bullet in the chamber, and I did not keep the safety off. That was only because I was so new to the process, and I was so new to carrying a firearm. And once I became more comfortable, actually going to the range, understanding my gun, taking it apart, knowing all the dynamics of my firearm, then I started keeping one in the chamber. It's literally ready to go at all times, and I carry every day wherever I go. It doesn't matter if I'm just going up the street, it's on me. And if I'm walking the dog, I have it also. It's just it's an extension of my body now. And it was scary in the beginning, but then just becoming knowledgeable with time made a huge difference.
Okay. So that brings me to Athena, because when you talk about carrying, not being comfortable carrying with the round in the chamber in the very beginning, I remember Athena calling me. She had just left a store. She said, Lena, you in the office? I'm nervous about carrying around in the chamber. I said, girl, come to the office and let's talk about it. Let me show you how you do it. And I gave you some tips. And Athena, why don't you talk about that? Because you're the only one out of the group that didn't come through JMD, which is okay, but it was different because some things that you may not have learned there, you picked up through the gun club. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I purchased my firearm, I had my firearm just for protection. I did not carry all the time. I only carried when I was going somewhere or felt like, oh, I'm going in this area, let me carry my firearm. Or if I have this event, let me carry my firearm. But I could shoot. Now I'm a great shooter, but I didn't know I was not knowledgeable about my firearm, and I felt like I like to do things and I have to know about it. So if I got this firearm to be responsible, I needed to know about my firearm. And the person that I got my went through with my getting my FOI card and things like that was not thorough in teaching me about my firearm. So tip one, you need to research who you are going to take classes with, because some people just want your money and they're not really concerned about you knowing your firearm and your safety.
Absolutely.
And so I asked Javonda, I don't know anything about this gun. I don't know. I know it's got a safety, you know, when I put my finger on it, it's got a safety, but I don't know about my firearm. And I am so forever grateful that Javonda was receptive to sitting me down, didn't charge me. Thank you, Jesus. Didn't charge me because she cares about women and me knowing about your firearm. And so we sat down, she broke my firearm down. I had never seen the inside of a gun, and showed me and walked me through it. And that's how and then from that day, even in that conversation, she was like, and how do you carry it? Do you carry one in the chamber? No, because I don't know how to work this thing. I can work it, but I'm not secure. You know, I was not confident. And so once she had that walkthrough with me, I carry one in the chamber as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Karen, what I remember most about your journey, you came and you were as methodical as Helena, and Helena's going to tell us about her methodical process. But Karen was as methodical. I'm taking this class. I want to understand. I want to learn what all of this is about. And then as soon as we started the NRA Distinguished Expert Program, we didn't start it, but it's their marksmanship program. And one of our instructors, Celeste Jones, went through the program. She and Greg Pruitt, one of the instructors, Celeste brought the program to us and said maybe the gun club would like it. So Karen and her partner, teammate Lisa Cooper, were the first to go through the program and pass. And so Karen, what I remember most exhilarating about your process when you were qualifying that night was that you were so excited. You were shooting, you know what, out of the target. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I want you to explain what that experience was like. Because all of us who have come behind you, even I was behind you, I didn't even start the program initially. It gave me motivation to want to go through the program.
Lisa and I were so excited, and we had the type of schedules to where we were like, okay, we need to do this and we need to get this over with. We can't let this drag out. We're not going to be doing this all summer. So I went and purchased the actual target pistol. I said, we got to have our own. I don't want to be waiting on nobody. So when we were I wish you guys could have saw us. We were in there shooting those targets in each other's ear. Like, girl, you can do this, get that target. Pretend it's like that old dude you used to date and he messed around. We were tearing those targets apart. And we were so excited, you guys. We finished the program in 6 weeks because we did at least 2 of the intervals every week. We were at that range and we got to do this. We got to do this. And the last time that we were there, and Celeste was with us, when you have to have the instructor there to grade you and time you. And Celeste was looking at us. She was like, y'all ain't playing. Because we went in there, we said, we are not coming back. I don't have time to come back. I'm busy. I got a company to run. I'm busy. We have to do this. And we shot those targets, but the adrenaline and the rewards behind it, it's what drives you. And if you got a good partner, y'all egging each other on and cheering each other on. And most of all, we weren't gonna let the other one pass us up. I said, we're gonna finish this together. Because I'm not coming back with you if you can't finish. You're not coming back with me if I can't finish. Us to finish. We were so happy we finished, and people were asking us, well, is it hard? It's as hard as you make it. Because if you practice, once you first 3 or 4 components of it, you should be able to get through the rest of it real easy. But you get kind of nervous because I've never done this. I've never shot with one hand. I never shot with my weak hand, with one hand. And so many times in so many seconds. So it provokes you actually to practice more and to actually feel like you've accomplished something, like all of this stuff that you've done, your FOID card, your concealed carry, the drawing from concealment classes, and all these other classes that you take lead up to that. And it's such a fulfillment. When I put that vest on and people be looking at me when I'm out, they're like, oh, what's all of that? And I just start breaking it all down. And they're looking at me like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's really a great thing.
Okay. So what's interesting is Helena, of all of the panelists, is the only one, as she said in her introduction, that doesn't own a firearm. So what's really unique about Helena's story is you wouldn't know that she doesn't own a firearm because
Right.
her targets are on point. She shoots in the X, in the middle, every single time. From day one, she has been methodical. I remember Helena, if you remember this, she called one day and said, Lynn, I go over your PowerPoint all the time. I practice holding the firearm, even though I don't have one. I mean, she was the most methodical of any of the gun club members that I've had. And I think what's unique about her story is she has not purchased a gun. She's been in the gun club maybe 2.5 years now, if not 3, but she comes regularly to the range. She practices, she's doing her research, and when she's ready to shoot, if she had to pick up a firearm, she'd know exactly what to do. So the moral of this part, and I'll let her tell her story, is that even if you don't own a gun, there's no excuse. You can rent a firearm and still practice. Her skills are better than most in this gun club. So Helena, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, I was born and raised here in Chicago, so it was not legal for people to own firearms, not until the recent years. So I was not raised around firearms. I never felt comfortable around firearms. I had the mindset that firearms were bad, only because of the way that things were. Well, it's I was always curious about firearms. I always wanted to just shoot a gun just to see what it felt like. And like I said, I had asked some friends to take me to the range. Well, that never panned out. But when I go to community meetings, I would always get the information or talk to the people who are offering the concealed carry classes. I had a FOID card, but I never intended to do anything with it, but just added to all of the cards that I had. I heard Javon Lynn being interviewed on my local radio talk program. And she was so fascinating. I was like, wow, she sounds like someone I'd like to connect with. Well, 6 months after the program, a friend of mine brought me a plugger that she had received from some expo where Javon was. And my friend told me that you might be interested in this. Here's the plugger. And so as I read through the plugger, I said, oh, this sounds like the lady who I had heard on the radio. Well, turned out it was Javon. I decided I would call her and see, and my call to her was my way of interviewing her to see if she was someone that I would trust to teach me about firearms. We connected, found out we were in sorority sisters, so that was a plus for me. And then I told another friend that I was going to take these classes, and my friend said, oh, I want to take those classes too. So we did. We took the Intro to Firearms, and I wanted to get my concealed carry class card. We took that class. My first time actually firing a firearm was during the Intro to Firearms class when we used the little Surf gun, and I was terrified. It just didn't feel right, but I did it because I wanted to do it. Then when we took the concealed carry class, and Joanna told us we were going to the range and we were going to actually shoot a real gun, I could not sleep. I was nervous as I don't know what. So when we got to the range, and after we did the shooting, and I found out that I hit the target, I was like, wow, I did that? I hit the target, I passed. It was an eye opener for me that I had that skill. Well, since then, I joined the Ladies of Steel Gun Club for the educational end. And that's what I like about the gun club. I have learned so much about being a responsible firearm owner, just being a member of the gun club. Going to the range, I surprised myself because I'm hitting the target. I mean, I'm really hitting the target. And just lately, I've been practicing shooting with my non-dominant hand and my dominant hand, and I'm hitting the target. So I feel like I've grown. I am progressing. I'm getting used to using different firearms and understanding how firearms work and the safety end of being a firearm owner. I'm still not there yet where I want to own a firearm, but I'm slowly but surely getting there. The more I go to the range and use different firearms, the more comfortable I will be with that. So that's my journey.
So Helena, thank you, because you are certainly a great role model for all of us. You really are. And so this kind of leads me down this next path when I think about family members. And in our community, sometimes we vilify firearms and we don't support one another in our family and say, hey, you getting a gun? Why do you need a gun? We've heard that. And then on some levels, we are cheered on by our families to say, good, I'm glad you're getting a gun, or it's inspiring. I know that Helena's, she always says her grandchildren are excited that she's doing this. They can't believe it. When you first started out, I would videotape you or take pictures, and I'm sure you would show it to them and they would be just as excited. So I certainly want to ask you all, have you experienced any negative or even the positive part of family members cheering you on or saying, you know, this is a good thing with you trying to go down this path with firearm ownership? And Athena, let's start with you.
When I first got my firearm, my husband at the time, he just was like, I don't know if I want you in the house with a firearm because you're a little mean to me sometimes. So he wasn't really sure if he wanted me to own a firearm in the home. But then once I got it, and some of my close friends, because I don't broadcast that I do have a firearm or that I'm, a concealed and carry. I don't broadcast it. I don't post it on Facebook. I don't take pictures of my firearms, post it on Facebook. I don't do that. But those who do know, like when we go out, they feel so secure, like they got a bodyguard, like, oh,
yeah, you secure it.
Yeah, her good girlfriend with her, we good. So I get that, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, y'all good, I'm good too. So that I haven't gotten any negative feedback from it.
Yeah.
Again, like when me and my girlfriends are out, my daughter just said it's like it's securities, and they feel safe, like they know they mama, as they probably would say, they mama packing, and I'm good.
Okay, Athena, talk a little closer next time into the phone, if you're on your phone. Okay. Karen, I know you said earlier your brother said, hey, we all have guns, we need you to get on board. Any lack of family support from anybody or friends, especially when you said you were going to be an instructor, because that's a whole nother level.
That's a whole nother level. Actually, I come from a large family. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters, and two of my sisters are incapacitated and can't shoot. So all of my brothers had been shooting with the shooter in the family, and I didn't even know. So I'm the only female in my family that shoots. Well, me and my sister, I have a sister that shoots, but everybody in my family has a firearm and they protect their family. But now the instructor thing, this is the only part where, you get I wouldn't call it hate, but you get the resistance, because you have people who will ask you questions so they can try to see if you know what you're talking about and what you're doing. And so I answer the questions, and then I tell them, I've been educated, and I said, I got one of the greatest leaders on this side of the Mississippi that's teaching this stuff. And they're like, well, yeah, because you just got into this and you seem like you're an instructor. Because I think this is something that is not to take too lightly. I take this thing seriously because my firearm is like an accessory. I put on my shoes, I get my firearm. Then I get my purse and my keys. But the resistance but most of the time when I tell people that I know that I'm an instructor, they're like, oh my God, that's so great. But then you have people who are like, well, what makes you think you could teach people? I said, well, somebody taught me. And they thought they could be an instructor and they thought I could be one. I said, somebody had to teach me. So I'm just all in when it comes to empowering women, people, anybody, how to protect themselves, especially doing it the right way. Because like Athena said, flag, and then you got some family members out here who will go out and just because they're hesitant, they'll talk about it in a bad light to somebody else. And then they'll say, well, your sister is an instructor, or your auntie is an instructor. So why don't you like it? So, and I think it's just the resistance that person has to own a firearm. But my family that wants to shoot can.
Okay. Vernetta, any good or bad experiences from or support, I would say, from family?
Yeah.
Or friends?
I would say more support. I would say more support from family.
Oh, Vernetta, I can't. Vernetta, hold on. Vernetta, you're breaking up. Hold on. Okay, try it again.
My brother was the one that was.
Wait, Vernetta, I'm gonna come back to you because you're breaking up. Maybe
to look into as I was single and I was always okay. Better now. Okay.
Okay, Vernetta, I'm gonna come back to you. Maybe make sure that your signal is okay.
Better now.
Yeah, that's a little better. Go on.
Okay. Okay. My brother, one that pretty much got me into looking at guns and firearms just so that I could be protected at all times, because I'm pretty independent and I was moving about a lot by myself. So I never really got any pushback because my mom and my dad and grandmother all had firearms. So it was not a surprise that I went that route. So I never had any negative pushback at all.
Okay. And Helena, I know you've talked about your family supporting you. Any negative feedback from any friends in your community or whatever?
Not necessarily negative feedback. They're happy for me, but they don't see that that's something for them to do. But they're accepting of the fact that this is something that I want to do. But my family is very supportive. My grandchildren, granddaughters are like, yeah, you go, grandma. My children are happy for me. They're like, they're surprised that this is something that I've been wanting to do and that I'm actually pursuing it. So yes, I do have, I have nice support.
Okay, good. And that's really important. It really, really is. And during this journey. So ladies, now I want you all to think about your most rewarding experience throughout this process, something that made you feel proud about being a firearm owner, or some single experience that you kind of got over. I know fear is something that I had to get over, but if you could think of one thing or something that was rewarding through this process. Athena, I'm gonna start with you.
I'm a little close because people are telling me they can't hear me, so I'm talking as loud as I can. My rewarding, I would say, is the moment that you really was personal with me and sat down and helped me with my firearm and made me feel comfortable and knowledgeable. So now I walk with confidence as a firearm owner. That's rewarding. It gets no greater than that, to know what I'm doing, what I have, what I'm capable of, and if some things go wrong, just to be aware and to be knowledgeable and responsible. That's rewarding to me.
Okay. Karen, most rewarding experience so far?
The most rewarding is the fact that that you saw something in me where you thought I could be an instructor. You was like, yeah, girl, you can instruct. And then you said something that really struck me. You say, yeah, I watched you. You practicing and you're doing this and you're shooting and you're the way you're doing this and the way that you're doing that. You could really be an instructor. So when I taught my first class, I was like, you know, this is something that I really like to do. And it pays off because, in another sense, when I go to the range with my brother, he's, he tells the people at the range, this is my baby sister. She's an instructor. She outshoot most dudes. And I'm like, oh man, stop telling the you know, but I'm cheesing and grinning. So it's rewarding when people see how they see something in you and they express it and you're like, oh wow, I just thought I was frantic to learn how to shoot and loved it and just wanted to keep on. But that instance when you said, yeah, you could be an instructor because I see something in you. And that's why I love you, because you just like the best thing.
Love her. Absolutely love
Thank you,
her.
thank you, ladies. All right, so
Serious. She's serious.
thank you. Thank you. Vernetta, rewarding experience?
I think the most rewarding experience was, first of all, just actually following through and doing it. Sometimes we always talk about what we want to do and never really have the initiative or just the patience or just the drive to follow it through. And then the other most rewarding thing is just seeing my daughter being a part of JMD at one time. And also, she's also a firearms owner and a concealed carry. She also concealed carry as well. So that's very important to me.
Yep, great young lady. She was an intern with JMD, took her concealed carry, and when she turned 21, she was able to upload her information. So awesome. Helena, most rewarding experience so far?
Well, I have two. One was getting my concealed carry card. And the other is when I go to the range now, I no longer jump when I hear the gun.
Yes.
I am comfortable putting the cartridges in the magazine and racking the slide on my gun. I'm no longer afraid of doing that. And shooting, I've been practicing shooting with my left hand and my right hand, and it's rewarding to me because I'm actually hitting the target with my non-dominant hand, something that I did not think I would be able to do. So that's been rewarding for me.
And hitting the target in the middle with her non-dominant hand. I have to keep saying that. Okay. So now, ladies, you know, we have to be honest. There's some scary times and scary things that happen with our firearms, not necessarily things we anticipated or something that we've done, but something that may have happened. You may have had a scary experience, and if you didn't, just say, nope, you know, I'm all good. But I know that Athena had a situation, and I certainly want her to share it so that it can be an educational moment, because everything we do is a teachable moment. So Athena?
On January 30th, 2020, I was laying in the bed at about 7 o'clock. And at 7:30, I heard a loud pop and a hard hit to my head, the top of my head. And I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, what is that? What is that? Where'd that come from? And then I had a handful of blood and I went to the bathroom. I had been shot through my bedroom wall and my headboard. So I began to call the police department and tell them I heard a loud pop and I was bleeding from my head. It's emotional because it's like the first time I really talked about it, besides, well, no, this is the second time. First time was in a class with JMD. So that was the most scariest part. And so if you're irresponsible, and if you don't know about your firearm, if you're trying to load a firearm or unload a firearm and you are unaware of the safety and the things that can happen, you could take somebody's life. And it happened to be me being very close to not being here. But by the grace of God, I was able to go to the hospital and get 5 staples on the top of my head and walk away by that next morning. So please, if nothing less, if you don't get anything else from this, be careful, be responsible, get under great leadership. So that was the most scariest part of mine. And it has scared me for a year afterwards, where I did not carry my firearm. I didn't even look at my firearm. I had no desire, because I was once a victim of gun violence. So, but I'm carrying one in the chamber now, baby, so I'm okay.
Okay. And so just so that I can let the all the attendees understand what happened, it was an irresponsible new firearm owner that lived a few apartments over, I believe, and
Yeah.
the bullet traveled through the drywall, which bullets can travel through drywall. And he had drug paraphernalia on his bed and had just gotten a gun, and I'm assuming he pulled the trigger to see if it would fire. And that was something obviously very irresponsible. He could have taken her life, and it traveled through, and she could have moved 1 millimeter over and been dead. So she did not do anything, and it wasn't an accidental shooting. We call them negligent shootings. Guns just don't go off. So we are grateful. Go on, Athena.
Right. He was 27 years old. That was out from what I'm hearing. He was 27 years old, and he had just purchased that firearm that morning.
Jesus.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he did not understand what he was supposed to do and not do with the firearm. And thankfully, she is alive and is not injured, but it was traumatic. It was. But we ask people in our gun club when we have our meetings to share experiences, because they're all teachable moments. We can't necessarily train our neighbors. They can't all take class with us and be under the right leadership, but we just pray that we do what's right, so we're not negligent and could harm someone else. Karen, have you had a scary experience that you want to share?
Yes. And this was a learning experience from heaven. And this is the lesson that I learned behind this. Is like, you don't know everything about everybody. I don't care how close you think they are to you, but I had purchased a smaller firearm for easier concealment, in the summertime when you wear less clothes. And I really didn't even shoot at anything. So one day I was at the range with my brother and his friends. Like, oh, I like that firearm, and he's like, you want to sell it? I said, yeah, we can sell it. I can sell it. So the process that you go through, and this was pre-COVID, so I don't think there was an issue with things being backed up. I think it was just an oversight on the Illinois State Police Department part. And then it was really an oversight on mine, because, I trusted the person and thought I knew him since childhood. But we went through this process. And when you transfer a firearm or sell a firearm, you have to go in Illinois. You have to go on the state police website and get a transfer number, right? Because they check this person's record and they check your record, and then they send you a indication saying it's okay to release the firearm to the new owner, and then they tell you to do whatever paperwork you got to do as far as transfer of money. Okay, all that happened, good. About a month or so later, I didn't get a letter. I got a phone call from the Illinois State Police saying, Ms. Odom, this officer so-and-so from the Illinois State Police, and you recently sold a firearm to blah, 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 blah. But we have found information within his record that nullifies his ownership, a gun ownership. They deleted his FOID card because of some child support issue. I didn't know that. And I didn't think to ask that. So I called my brother and we was like, okay, we'll get it. So we called him and told him, and this is what he said. He said, oh yeah, I knew about it, but I didn't think that would affect my right to own a firearm. I said, well, you need to get, look, I was like, you need to give me my gun back and I can give you your money back. And I mean, he understood because he said he didn't know, but then the Illinois State Police should not have released that, because it was if it was a part of his history, his record, they should have seen that. So they should have told me, no, you cannot sell that firearm to that individual. So he gave it back to me, and I gave him his money back, and he gave me some money back for my trouble. And from that point on, I was like, I bet you I'm not gonna sell a firearm to my brother. I mean, I don't know everything that's in it, but apparently, you have to really be sure about those kind of things. So it was scary for me, because if I hadn't have been able to retrieve that firearm, and whatever he had done with it, or if he had used it and it was in a crime, or if he used it, it would have came back to me, because the sale would have been null and void. So everything that happened with that firearm would have been my responsibility. So I'm just grateful that was a learning experience. So I'll never sell a firearm unless I just go sell it to a store or trade it in or something at a dealership. So that was really a learning experience.
And I'm glad Karen shared that experience. We do talk about that in our classes, because if you don't keep good records, had Karen not kept good records and not been able to contact this individual, had they contacted her later, or he had done something with this firearm, that firearm is always registered to her. And so she kept good records. We teach that all the time. You have to make sure that you can go back and say, nope, I sold this to this individual. So I'm glad it worked out, but it is a scary experience, because firearms are serious and we don't know what people are going to do with them. Vernetta, did you have a bad experience?
Not so much of a bad experience, just carrying and being pulled over by the police.
Okay. Wow. And what was that like?
That was scary, because you just don't know when they get out their car and you have your firearm on your body. They automatically get out their car with their hand on their firearm, and it's like, oh my God, I know they ran my plates. I know they know I have this thing in here. Where do I I had gotten into a habit of just leaving my wallet on top of the middle part, the console middle part of the vehicle, so that I didn't have to reach anywhere, because I know I carry a firearm. So when they approached the window, one approached the passenger side and one approached the driver's side. I had both. So they asked for my license. I gave them my license. And I also advised them at the time that I have a concealed carry permit. And they asked me immediately, where's your firearm? And I told them it's on my body under my right arm. So they asked for my credentials as well. And I gave them that. I didn't get a ticket. It was just failure to turn on my lights, and it was already dark. I don't know why it wasn't on auto. It just wasn't on auto at the time. But it was just scary, just having, police come to your car and you got a firearm. It's like, oh Lord, I don't want to be a statistic. But that was probably the scariest moment for me.
Okay. And I'm glad you survived, and everything you just mentioned is what we tell people to do. Let them know. Don't reach for anything. And it sounds like you handled it beautifully. And yes, they do know, if they run your plates, or run your license, that you are, that you could have a firearm in that vehicle, and they don't know if it's you or whoever's driving the car. Helena, did you have a negative experience with anything related to this firearm journey that you want to talk about as we kind of draw to a close?
It happened many, many, many years ago. When my husband and I were first married, and we had some friends over, and one of the friends had a gun and put it in our bedroom. Well, I did not know that. I was not privy to that. I didn't know. So I go in the bedroom, I see this gun sitting on the dresser. So I was like, oh, a toy gun. All right. And I was tempted to pick it up and just hold it in my hand and pretend like I was firing it, because in my mind, it was a toy gun. Luckily, I did not do that, because 2 seconds after I had that thought, my husband came in the room, startled me, and I turned around and I looked at him and I thought to myself, oh, thank God I did not have that gun in my hand, because if I did, I would have automatically just hit the trigger and I would have shot someone I love. And that scared me to no end. And that really kept me from even wanting to look at a firearm or hear about a firearm or wanting to be around firearms. And it has taken me 1,000 years to get to the point where I wanted to act on just learning how to work with firearms.
Okay.
So that was
So I'm glad you shared that experience, Helena, because we all know that children are curious, and people, irresponsible firearm owners have left firearms laying around, and that situation could have very well turned ugly had you not had a second thought. Kids don't have those kinds of skills in there, or at the maturity, they're not at the same maturity level to say this could hurt somebody, this is not a toy. So we all have to stop and think about how we're securing our firearms, no matter where we are, even if we're out at someone else's home. So ladies, our panel discussion has been great. It's so much more we could talk about. An hour is never enough. But as we begin to wrap up, I want you all to think about some words of wisdom that you could leave with our attendees. They have a wide variety of experiences. I'm sure some are just starting out, and you all remember when you all were first starting out, and some may be experienced and need a refresher. Some have become those irresponsible, they've picked up some irresponsible behaviors that we need to remind them are not good, that could result in something tragic happening. So as we go around, I'm gonna start again with Athena. If there's some words of wisdom that you could tell people, just take a quick minute and let's go around. So Athena.
Words of wisdom is when you're in school or when you went to school, you had a favorite teacher, someone who really impacted your life, somebody who may directed you in a certain way. So you always remember that. My words of wisdom is to be under good leadership, a wise teacher that can teach you everything about firearm, fire safety, your safety, precautions, and everything. And that I would highly recommend that you pick someone because it's impactful. It's impactful and it will help you along this journey, because this is nothing to play with. This is highly respected and you gotta have a lot of knowledge and be responsible. And so I recommend, that's my second part. My part B is I recommend Javonda and JMD. She didn't pay me for that, but I'm just telling you, I am forever grateful that I ran into her too at an expo or something going on, and knowing her through somebody else. But be under great leadership, because this is not nothing to play with.
All right, Karen.
My words of wisdom would be practice, practice, practice. Educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. Learn. It's just like you learn about things that you want. You have to learn about things that you want to do, because you have to know how to do them. Learn about firearms, practice with them, and get you a good JMD coach. Get somebody who knows more than you, right? And just try to be at the best level that you can get to for where you want to be. But practice.
Helena, words of wisdom.
Yes, I would say educate yourself on what it means to be a responsible fire owner, and also on the safety aspect of owning and using a firearm. That is so very important. And just keep thinking that over and over and over. What does it mean to be a responsible firearm owner.
Okay. Vernetta?
Well, one tip I have is just security of your firearm, making sure that in your household, if you're having people over, make sure that your firearm is stored and locked away if it's not on your body, because you just want to make sure that only you are touching your firearm. No one else should touch it. And you want to make sure that it's in a safe location so that no children, no family members, no one can touch your firearm but you. That's it.
Okay. So I appreciate those words of wisdom. I appreciate the shameless plug. But I must say, JMD does not operate as a solo entity. I have a great team that makes the wheels go around. Greg Pruitt is one of my instructors, Michelle Payne, Pamela Clanton, Karen Odom, Celeste Jones, and Will Smith. They make up our team, and they are our coaches. They help with advice. They're great instructors. And what I love about my team is that everybody helps me to be better and has a skill set that I may or may not have. And that's what makes it all work so well together. As I wrap up, I just want to say to everybody, thank you for joining. We do have a Ladies of Steel Gun Club. I'm going to share my screen just for the last 4 minutes. I want to thank my panelists for agreeing to be on this panel. What generally happens is I will ask people to do something in a way that they cannot really say no. They want to say no, maybe. And I let them know that you can do this. And we will do this, and I want us to do this because their stories have been so empowering. I watch people all the time, and I tap people and say, I want you to do this, or you can do that. And what stands out to me about all 4 of them is that they're serious about firearm ownership. They're serious about firearm education. They're going to the range, they're practicing, and they're great ambassadors for what it really should look like when you are trying to become a firearm owner. So if you are interested, follow me on Facebook at JMD Defense LLC. Follow me on Instagram. My website is jmddefense.com. You can sign up for classes. Certainly you can join the gun club. If you live out of state, we have a virtual option for you. Obviously you can't go to the range with us, but we're really serious about firearm ownership. We really are. We walk the walk, we talk the talk, and we are not just out here saying, oh, it's cute to carry a gun. We are cute and we can shoot, but we make sure that we are serious about this process. So ladies, we have 2 minutes. If you all have any last words before we end right at 7 o'clock, it's 6:58. So Helena, any last words?
No, I just want to say I've enjoyed being on this panel, and I hope that I have helped someone who is also on this journey, who's looking at things through the same lens that I am.
Okay, great. Karen?
Just really proud to be a part of this panel and share some things that, were touching for me to share. Just really glad that you asked me to be a part of it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Vernetta?
It was very exciting to share with everyone about my journey as far as being a firearm owner. And I just appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Athena?
Thank you. And I just want to say, if you are interested, be careful, be mindful, be wise, and choose Ladies of Steel and Javonda and JMD.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And stay tuned. We do have a great webinar coming up in May. And it will be with attorney Maria Barlow. She is a concealed carry. She's an attorney that represents concealed carry holders, people that have gun charges. She is the real deal, a straight shooter, I must say. And she will give us information about concealed carry and answer questions about the law and tell us what people are doing out in the streets, riding dirty, and all kinds of things that are very interesting. So that's coming up May 23rd. All right.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Thank you all so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.